All my life, I've hated to miss anything. I burst into the world at Sahalon Hospital in Tel Aviv-Yafo on May 9, 1976, not quite 2 months before airborne commandos from the Israel Defense Forces staged a daring raid at Uganda's Entebbe International Airport to rescue 106 hostages being held by Palestinian and German hijackers. I guess I didn't want to miss that either. In many ways, we were a quintessential Israeli family. My mother, my father, my older brother and I, and those who came before us. I am still amazed at how closely our family story parallels the national story of Israel, both the inspiring and the tragic parts. Ancestors on both sides came from the area around Lodz in central Poland, a former industrial center of grand mansions, red brick factories, and dilapidated tenements that suffered a brutal German occupation during World War II. Lodz had the second largest Jewish community in Poland after Warsaw, and the Nazis were especially vicious there. The local synagogues were set on fire. Jewish males over the age of 14 were rounded up and shipped to forced labor camps. The Jews who remained were packed into the Lodz ghetto. Many were eventually shipped 150 miles south to Auschwitz II, Birkenau in Poland, while others were sent to other German concentration and death camps in neighboring countries. My mother's family, the Homburgs, got out just in time, fleeing to the safety of Leeds in northern England, though many of their friends and relatives suffered terrible fates at the hands of the Nazis. The most reliable estimates say that 145,000 men, women, and children from Lodz perished in the death camps, and no more than 12,000 survived, most of them by escaping and starting new lives abroad. The horrors of that time cast a long shadow over our family, as with the families of many European Jews. My mother's father, Mendel Homburg, whose nickname was Mickey, became a well-known bodybuilder in northern England, not something you'd necessarily expect of a young Jewish boy. But that was his response to the death and disappearance of so many relatives. "We need to be strong. We need to be able to defend ourselves." He died before I was born. But I have seen photos, and I've heard stories, and I am told I have my maternal grandfather's smile. He and his wife, Rose, provided a warm and loving home in post-war Leeds for their 2 children, a son named Roy, who would go on to become a world-renowned fertility doctor in Israel, and an artistically minded daughter named Gabrielle, known by everyone as Gay. My father's father, Michael Bergman, was an ardent socialist who caused quite an uproar in his family when he tried to organize the workers at a factory his father owned in the Polish town of Koło, demanding higher wages and shorter workdays. That went over about as well as you might imagine. Some say the idealistic young man was banished. He called it a liberation. Either way, my socialist grandfather set out for the untamed land of Palestine to live the socialist dream. This may sound strange, but my family tree is actually shaped more like a circle. My mother and father were related, third cousins by marriage, I believe. They tell me this was normal for people whose families came from the tight-knit villages of central Poland. Maybe it was. Their 2 surnames said everything. Bergman is German for mountain man. Homburg is originally French for man of the mountain. It's the same name. My parents met in England. They clicked immediately. An aspiring teacher with an unabating passion for literature, theater, and the other arts, the adventuresome 20-year-old Englishwoman moved to Israel in 1967 as a volunteer during the Six-Day War, staying to marry my father in 1969. They had my brother Ellis in 1973, after the war in Sinai, and 7 months before the Yom Kippur War. That's the thing about living in a tumultuous place like Israel. You can tie almost every family milestone to a war, an uprising, an invasion, or some other cataclysmic event. When I arrived 3 years later, I was named for both my grandfathers, Michael and Mickey. Officially, I'm Michael Bergman, like my father's father, though I've gone by Mickey, my mother's father's nickname, since the 5th grade. My parents clumped the names together, and that was me. It was quite a legacy to carry on. These were the first people to inspire me.